Tyler's our VP of Data and Analytics, and he is by far one of the smartest people I've met. We talked 3 days into me working at retention.com, and I was like, yes, this is a good decision to have someone like this on board. So Tyler's going to go into some of the really cool nitty-gritty stuff, the things that I know all of my technical folks here are going to get really excited on. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tyler.
Hi, yes, good morning, everybody. Glad to be here and excited to walk through some of the nuts and bolts of how our technology works and then how we use that kind of core technology to empower our 3 flagship product offerings. So let's go ahead and dig in here, right? So when you have website traffic landing to your domains and your owned and operated domains, our first step in our waterfall process is to identify who is this user and what is their email, right? And that isn't just looking at what is the first email that we know, right? You can have multiple emails associated to a single user, and probably a lot of those emails are good. So we go then to the next step, which is really validating all those emails that we have for a unique user and finding out which ones are permissioned and deliverable. This is a key step here, and especially when it comes to compliance and legality, in that if we identify an email for a user, but we don't have first or third party opt-in permission to mail them, we'll throw it out. We're not going to pass you emails that are going to put you at a compliance or legal risk. We also always defer to the first party opt-in. So again, if my email is Tyler@retention, and then I also have Tyler@Gmail, we might identify me as Tyler@retention, but we know, hey, Tyler@Gmail is opted in for this client. We're going to defer to passing that first party opt-in on the record. Once we get through the permissioned and deliverable checks, then we check for recent activity. And this is another huge piece in email marketing, in that you really only want to be sending mail to recently active emails. That avoids spam traps, that avoids just having deliverability errors from a bouncing email, etc. So we do check against our activity graph of 1.6 billion events to make sure that this email actually is active. Once it gets through all these rigorous checks, there's actually 9 total in our waterfall. That's when we deliver the lead. And so that's kind of the overview of how we get from, hey, we know this user, we know the emails associated with them, and all the way down to which email do we actually provide to the clients. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this waterfall, this identity solution really powers our 3 core products. Those are Grow, Reclaim, and then Meta Persistent Audiences. So Grow, these are your top of the funnel users, right? This is someone lands on your site, they don't fill out a form, but we are able to identify what that plain text email of that user is. We can then validate that, make sure that there's third-party permission to mail them, and add them to your list. So it really effectively works to grow your email list, and it grows at 10 times faster than most other strategies, right? Think about it in a way of you're putting paid spend, SEO or Facebook spend to try and drive leads. You know, a form fill might get a 5% conversion rate. With Grow, you can boost that up to around 50%, right? We'll be able to get 50% of all those users who landed on your page and distill that down to a permissioned and deliverable email. The next product is Reclaim, and this is really focused on users taking lower in the funnel events and doing actions like adding things to a cart, viewing a product, but they are not logged in on your site. Now, there's a couple reasons that they wouldn't be logged in, and that, you know, either Klaviyo or some of these other tracking mechanisms wouldn't be able to see these events. You know, think cross-device here, or even on a different browser, or maybe the lead doesn't even exist on your list. So these are all the most valuable actions to trigger some of these targeted flows, but with the kind of out of the box technology, they just miss a lot of those. So this is really filling in all those events that, for whatever reason, Klaviyo was not able to identify. And then the third piece here is the Meta Persistent Audiences. And this is really just a retargeting audience boost in a way, right? Similar to Klaviyo and cookies being blocked, Meta's cookie gets blocked on a lot of website visits. Our cookie does not. So that enables us to identify a larger pool of audience members that we can then feed directly into Facebook to boost your retargeting audience sizes. In that one, the match rate is significantly higher. We actually identify 88 to 90% of all traffic with the meta persistent audiences. So diving a little bit deeper into each of these and talking through some nuances. So again, grow, this is really top of the funnel. And again, this is one where there's the most maybe hesitance from different agency and different high-end clients where they might not necessarily want to email third-party opt-ins, which is, we want to assure you that there are ways to do this in a compliant and in a way that will not affect your email deliverability. Let's go ahead, go to the next slide.
And Tyler, this might be a good one to answer this question of how do we handle decreases in deliverability performance for clients in the ESP across the board?
Yep, so decreases in deliverability or performance, we're really going to get into that and really unpack grow a little bit more in some later slides. But it really all is this concept of making sure the rates that are deterministic of your deliverability and your sender score do not get impacted by the addition of these third-party opt-in leads or the additional volume of this list growth. So we've got several tried and true methods of doing that, and that we will kind of unpack and really dive in deeper in future slides here. So yeah, just a note on grow, right? The reason it's such a huge value prop for brands is it does enable this 10x faster list growth. So as you're adding more leads to your list, getting them active, getting them bought into your brand, those turn into future purchasers. And the grow really works to fill the top of the funnel with the main goal of, hey, let's get this user back to the site. Let's have them have a product view or an add to cart event, which will then launch those later down in the funnel flows. So now we're talking about reclaim, right? And this is the very bottom of the funnel leads. So these are leads that for the most part are already on your list, but these high intent events were not able to be identified by the existing technologies, by Klaviyo or some of these other event triggers. So that's when we see one of these events happen, we will look and find that opt-in record that it happened on and just notify Klaviyo that, hey, this user just had a add to cart event, trigger them a targeted flow. And again, the whole concept of this is our cookie does not get blocked when a lot of these other ones do. And that enables us to get these incremental lift in the amount of events seen per user. And then finally, let's go over to the meta audiences here, or sorry, reclaim here. So meta audiences or reclaim, again, this is around 15% of your traffic is known and logged in. We can expand that significantly. And typically clients see 5 to 10x higher volumes on these additional flows and are able to drive incremental sales from those. And then finally here, the meta audiences. Again, it goes back to the same concept of a persistent cookie, where our cookies are persistent and have a long lifetime, whereas Meta and some of these other cookies, they get eliminated after 7 days. So what this effectively does is instead of capturing around 50% of your site visitors, that's what the Meta Pixel can kind of do independently. We're able to capture 90% of your audience, feed that directly into Facebook. And then in working with our CS, right, we'll set up campaigns that is targeting just this incremental audience. So you can really see what is the lift in the incremental revenue that we're getting from the 30 to 40% of site visitors that retention identified that Meta was unable to. So we're going to pause here. I know that was a lot of information and pause for questions. So we can open up the floor to anyone who has questions on any of the 3 products or how they work together.